Warning. The following may contain concepts, ideas, and/or reflections unique in nature and not yet approved by government and/or corporate entities. This content is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended to stimulate further reflection or to perpetuate additional discourse beyond the scope already outlined by institutional curriculum.
All right, today's episode, we're talking drugs. Whether they're legitimate or illicit. Let's get into the numbers. Cue the intro. All right. So, did you want to start things off today?
I will attempt to. So, globally, there's 165,000 hospitals in the world, and
A lot of sick people.
a lot of people in pain. And one remedy for pain is morphine. Now,
True that.
so morphine is derived from the opium or the poppy plant.
Yeah.
And
where do you get most of your poppies from?
well, I'm not going to tell you right now.
Oh,
But-
let's hold up this. Create the suspense.
It's a little bit of a suspense, yeah. It'll be surprising where they are actually allowed to grow under strict control. But during the Afghan war, we were hearing reports that, poppy plants were flourishing. The opium was being harvested, or however they do it, scrape off the resin, collect it. But there was plenty of Afghanis employed in doing that. So I would imagine that harvesting opium for the purpose of deriving morphine from it as just one derivative involves a fair amount of employees.
You got cotton mouth? I can hear you smacking your jaws there.
I got a little bit of saliva, doesn't know where it wants to go.
Well, maybe keep it in your mouth. But okay, so
anyways,
let's crack into.
So what I was thinking when I was hearing about U.S. soldiers protecting the poppy fields, I thought, okay, everybody was mentioning
the illicit drug.
illicit drug component, which would be heroin, and
But let's not forget the largest peddler of drugs in the world is not illicit, is it?
No. No, actually, in this one, it says that 70% of the morphine, which is under strict government control, is controlled, but the rest isn't. So 30% of the total morphine production is.
Do
controlled.
you mind if I reiterate that? So okay, what my
Esteemed
stumbling compadre here is trying to spit out is nearly 70% of the total morphine production is regulated under government healthcare supply chains, ensuring controlled distribution, which means that the majority is controlled by legitimate production for painkillers.
Right.
So it's the vast majority is not on the streets. The vast majority is being prescribed by doctors and medical staff.
Now, what I was thinking was, okay, so they have vast fields or production in Afghanistan, but nobody seems to be mentioning that there are 165,000 hospitals in the world, all relying upon a morphine source. So wouldn't it make more sense that demand for those poppy plants would be for the purpose of supplying painkillers for all these hospitals?
But maybe the opioid awareness means that they don't necessarily want to take credit for the tons of morphine that they produce or tons of opioids that they produce. So I see here that you have that in 2013, they produced 523 tons of morphine.
Right.
Keeping in mind that morphine is obviously a highly concentrated and potent agent, and but we're talking tons here. We're talking truckloads of morphine that's being produced.
Now, I stumbled upon this website, which is, anybody could look this up, the International Narcotics Control Board.
Right.
And you could do that, www.incb.org/documents. And it shows the demand for morphine is rising. There are certain poppy plants where they're trying to get different pain-killing components. Not all of it is morphine. Some are rich in other different types of derivatives. But I was amazed to see that of the countries where this is allowed under strict control would be Australia, India, Turkey, France, Slovakia, Hungary, Spain, USA, and UK. So somewhere within these countries, there is a opium production, which I thought was, I mean, if you really think about the amount of people that would have to be employed and what type of strict security would you come across if you happen to stumble upon one of these grow-ups.
Right.
And when you think about the level of grow-ups that have sprung up with legalized cannabis, you don't really see, surprisingly, armed guards and whatnot in cannabis grow-up. But I would imagine opium is a much more controlled substance, so you would think you'd have a very obvious. It would be like stumbling into Area 51 or something like that.
Right. And so, to be perfectly honest, I was kind of a little bit zoned out because I was looking up something myself. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure what you said was all lucid and good. But so I want to switch gears just a little bit here. And so morphine is something that's been a long established drug, but it's not the only opioid that is used. There's also synthetic compounds that are also used in hospitals.
Pray tell, which one?
So piperidides are a family of drug that is created. Now, in that family, there's a whole litany of different things. Some of them are antipsychotics. Some of them are used as insecticides. Others are used as for crowd control, and then others are PCP. If you are familiar with PCP, it's a drug that came out like in the 70s and started.
Street name Angel Dust.
Exactly, and it's also shares the family with fentanyl, which was developed in 1959. So it's a fairly old drug, even though you see it a lot now in the media and in news stories. But it's been around for a long time. It's been produced for a long time. Somewhere in the 60s, it was approved for use in the U.S. It was originally produced in Germany by Hansen Pharmaceutica. So
it's been around a long time.
The question is, as far as production of these compounds, how easy is it for a person with a cursory knowledge of chemistry to prepare these things? Well, considering that some of this family is classified as a bioweapon, I would say that it's probably highly controlled. And so let's get in to how controlled these things really are. Now, just doing a cursory look at the fentanyl in medicine, we see that in 2015, 1,600 kilograms were used in healthcare globally. Now, to put that in perspective, the DEA says that 2 milligrams which is 1/1000th of a gram, 2 milligrams, could be a fatal dose in the average human.
Right.
So it's quite a potent compound, and it does not take too much. Well, first off, it's highly addictive, and its dependency is on the high range, and its danger is on the high range because risk of overdose is quite probable.
So that
now,
amount that was produced, how lethal would that be for the population of 8 billion people?
Well, let's just say this, because this is the amount that's being used, and we're going to get into the other number, which is production numbers or potential production numbers. But let's just concentrate on the amount that's actually used. That means that there's a 2.1 million people could be given a lethal dose, given the amount that they're giving out. Now, of course, their health workers are not giving out lethal doses to everybody, but the point is it's the level of quantity that is being doled out, and
then that would have to be continuously, year after year, guarded under the strictest of conditions.
Right. And so my question is, I mean, with knowing how potent morphine is, and seeing the effects of morphine, when I visited my cousin, he ran off the road and went into a tree, and soon after we went to visit him, and they had him on a morphine drip. I mean, he was pretty elated considering they just smashed into a tree stump. He seemed pretty happy, even with all the broken bones and internal injury, because morphine is just that potent of a compound. And so I just wonder how many instances is fentanyl, which is supposed to be 30 to 50 times more potent or more effective than morphine. How many times is this required to be used and utilized?
Right.
And in what cases? What cases are is morphine not going to function and fentanyl will be prescribed?
You would think they would just switch out morphine and just use that which is more potent. And since it can be synthesized, boy, that's a tongue twister.
with a missing tooth, I'm sure.
Yeah, with a missing tooth, not easy. That they would just switch out and use fentanyl.
Well, who knows? But let's just go down a different rabbit hole of speculation. Let's say that fentanyl is a controlled substance, which it is. Let's just say that the DEA is the one setting control parameters for this controlled substance. And let's just say that its annual aggregated manufacturing quota has significantly reduced in recent years from 2,300,000 kilograms in 2015 and 2016 to only 731,452 kilograms in 2021, a nearly 68% decrease. Now, okay, there's a very funny way that they're formulating this. First off, saying that that's a decrease, I want us to concentrate on these numbers here that they're providing us. We're talking about kilograms. We're not talking about grams here. So just to be clear, this is kilos of an extraordinarily potent compound. Now, because 2 milligrams, according to DEA and the official websites, 2 milligrams could be a lethal dose in a human. And a milligram is 1/1000th of a gram. That means that 1 gram could kill 500 people, which means 1 kilogram could kill 500,000 people, which means that if we times 500,000 with the 2,300,000 kilograms that the quota is set at, we have a potential lethal dose for 1,150,000,000,000 people. Now, if you're not too good with numbers, we don't have that population, okay? Not even close. Even if you divided that on 365 days a year, we're still looking at 3 3,151,684,931 people.
I think the producers of this have obviously been put out of business because there's no need. With that type of quantity, there's no need to ever produce that again.
Right. So listen to this. Just I want to hammer this home. To be clear, according to the DEA, 2 milligrams is deadly. And the amount that we're setting the quota at for 2,300,000 kilograms of fentanyl, not all drugs, just this potent compound, fentanyl. It would be the amount of fentanyl that you could give 3 billion people on the planet, over 3 billion people on the planet, a lethal dose every day of the year for an entire year. So I don't know. I mean, to me, that's a phenomenal number. If anybody thinks that that's normal, I mean, what can you say? Now let's just.
I don't know much about it, but let's just pose this question: if morphine creates a euphoria, and of course it has the properties of being a painkiller, and fentanyl is a painkiller as well, but puts one in possibly a psychotic episode of an induced possible schizophrenic reaction, you would think that if I had my choice, I would go with morphine.
Well, yes, morphine, even though it is extremely potent, does seem like it would be the safer compound. And I think most medical doctors would probably agree with that assessment. It doesn't seem like that's controversial to say that fentanyl can have a damaging effect with prolonged use on cognition and disassociation with reality after prolonged use.
Oh, I have this other thought that just popped in my head. Now, you'd think that when DEA or whatever government agency seizes upon these shipments of fentanyl coming in, they would just tell their supplier, no need to procure any more. We've got this illicit that now is in our possession, and it seems like pretty reasonably great stuff. We'll just sell this to the hospitals.
Right. So
for a little profit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a bit of an aside because I don't even know. Because here's the thing. With some of these, if these are production numbers, which they're quotas, so let's just break down, like, just logically here. There's nowhere that I could see what the official numbers, like what these people are actually producing, because a lot of these pharmaceutical companies have a lot of latitude on what they're doing behind closed doors. And while the DEA may be aware of what the numbers actually are, they could say, well, we want this to be confidential information. So things that we share with the government are not to be shared publicly. But so we don't really know exactly what all the pharmaceutical companies around the world are actually producing. But the fact that this is a quota is incredibly interesting and incredibly worrying, because typically, if you understand what a quota would mean,
there's some of the list of pharmaceutical companies, and Pfizer is in.
Yeah, I could post that up on the screen too. But here's the thing. Typically, what a quota is because you want to control the amount that is out there. There's all kinds of different quotas, even quotas for milk. But one thing that is kind of universal is typically the quota will be set, the production typically reaches that same level, because it's kind of superfluous to set a quota unless you're targeting its production in some way. Right. For example, the usage by hospitals globally is 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl. So it's nowhere near these quotas, right? So, I mean, theoretically, if they were producing like 3,000 kilograms of fentanyl a year, they would have plenty to supply all of the hospitals around the world with enough, right? So why would a quota then be set at 2,300,000 kilograms if you'd only need 3,000 kilos of it.
A thought popped in my head. What if they wanted to use that extra fentanyl in a military capacity?
Well, it does put huge question marks on why, if they are producing this amount, like, who the hell's, you can't, there's not enough drug addicts out there to consume all this fentanyl. It is not even close. We're talking about truckloads of this shit. Truckloads, potentially. So I just want to go back to this number where they decreased the production for 2021 to 731,452 kilos. That seems like an oddly specific number. That seems, why would you not have a round number when you're putting a quota on how much could be produced? And the only thing that I can logically deduce is that the global production, the official production numbers from the big pharmaceutical companies must have been really close to that number. Because otherwise, you would just do a nice even round number. Why not just 700,000 kilos if the production numbers are nowhere even close to being achieved there? But if pharmaceutical companies say, well, we really need that extra 1,452 kilos, could you bump up the quota just by a bit?
Which just rounds off to 4 if you're into numerology, and I don't see what the significance of that is. But
well, good thing you brought it up then. So even at those numbers, we're still talking about a 365 billion lethal dosage. 731,452 kilos of fentanyl is a lethal dosage for 365 billion human beings.
Maybe when
that seems like an incredible production rate, if that's what's being produced. Now, I would hazard a guess that if these numbers are even remotely close, then I would even question the existence of illicit fentanyl. If you're legally producing that much and medical personnel are only using 1,600 kilos, you have way too much stock. And so the idea, we're blaming China for all this illicit fentanyl production, but unless you are saying that there's none of the big giants of the pharmaceutical companies actually have any operations in China.
By the way, I thought it was kind of interesting that the use of morphine or any of the opioids for pain relief in Southeast Asia was actually some of the lowest in the world. So maybe it all goes back to the opium wars. They just have disdain for opioids. But it is increasing in use.
Yeah, obviously America is more heavily drugged than any other nation on the planet. But I do think that there is a real threat of a boomerang effect happening where these companies are producing a drug, shipping it around the world, and then it comes back under the table as an illicit drug that was illicitly produced.
Hey, I propose that there's a possible doomsday scenario, and they're going to get everybody to just go down to your local pharmacy and collect your portion of. And we're all going to collectively take it.
Jim Jones actually never drank that Kool-Aid. He's just been hanging in the shadows, working for Big Pharma, producing enormous quantities of fentanyl to get his Kool-Aid idea on a global scale. So just prepare for Jim Jones to come back
he was
into
last
the limelight.
seen in the jungles of Cambodia.
Anyways, I don't think it's the subject matter is that light, but
it's just food for thought. It's something I pondered about who controls the licit production of opium and
Well, when you consider that there's been cases of the CIA helping to smuggle in cocaine into the U.S. and other agencies, whether it was branches of military or things like that were also involved in bringing in the illicit drugs. And when you look at some of these synthesized drugs, it really puts a question mark on is there a huge separation between the criminal underworld and the legitimate pharmaceutical just out for your global health?
That agency you last referred to does seem to have a long history of wanting to make sure the population are high.
Which one was that?
The CIA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
going
never
all the way back to the 50s.
They never experimented on people with lysergic acid for sure. Anyways.
Yeah.
I think that
That's a wrap.
it's just a little food for thought. I think that it's having a clear mind is probably one of the most important things that we can have, something that we can control.
Right.
And so clarity of thoughts, and see you next day, I guess. Ciao.